Foundation can end up looking really patchy and awful, especially as you go into your 40s and your skin becomes a little bit more dry. I want to show you exactly how to fix this. It isn't about always buying the right product. It is about skin prep, about your technique, about layering, about doing clever little tricks here and there to help it actually like resolve the issue. So let's fix this issue today and get right into it. Welcome back to my channel, guys. Today we are going to be talking about something that I hear quite a lot from people. Why does my foundation look so patchy, especially when you're in your 40s and above and beyond that? This is something that happens quite often, and honestly it really can knock your confidence. Now I'm going to be honest, this is not going to be surface level chat like use this primer because it's going to stop everything, use this foundation because it doesn't go patchy. We're deep diving into it. We are really breaking it down today and talking about exactly every single step, what you need to be doing, your technique, and basically showing you a real life practical demonstration of how I apply foundation to ensure that your skin is smooth, flawless, lasts all day and doesn't go patchy. So let's talk about very quickly exactly why this happens, because I need you to understand the backstory to this, exactly why it's happening before we dive into actually trying to correct the issue. So when your foundation clings on to certain parts of your skin or ends up looking patchy, it's usually because the surface of your skin isn't actually ready for it yet. And that could be down to many different factors. So let's talk about each one. So it could be that you have dehydrated skin. That doesn't mean that your skin is necessarily dry, but it could be that it's lacking water. So it could be it's just lacking moisture in general. So I think people have this common misconception that, okay, well, if I'm dehydrated, then that means that my skin must be super dry, but it doesn't look dry. It doesn't look flaky. It doesn't look like, you know, dry or just very tight. If it doesn't feel it and it doesn't look it, it could still mean your skin is dehydrated. I know that I've had dehydrated skin. Generally, my skin is quite dehydrated sometimes, and I need to add that added moisture into it, like really kind of feed it. Like it's like it needs a glass of water, and it doesn't necessarily show so obvious to the eye. Another reason for it could be that it's over exfoliation. So you are basically exfoliating a little bit too much or a little too frequently. So you're using kind of like acids too often, and that can end up making the skin quite uneven and patchy in general, not something that is that visible to the eye. But the minute you put foundation on, it will cling to the areas that it wants to and leave other areas out, which still means that your skin surface level is not actually even. And I guess this is a really difficult, like this is the difficult part about it, because with foundation we get to see what our skin is really like underneath, because when it does cling to certain areas, you're like, okay, well clearly something's going on here. It may not be that obvious to me when I'm looking at the skin, but there is something going on. Another thing it could be is the wrong texture underneath your foundation. And what I mean by that is that maybe you have like over moisturized, or maybe you've got too much product on your skin before you've gone in with your foundation. You don't have enough of it. There's a very fine line, but it could be that the texture of your skin underneath is just not the right prep for when you've applied your foundation. Another thing that it could be is incompatible formulas. And what that means is maybe you've used a silicone-based primer and then a water-based foundation, and the two put together, sometimes it works. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that this never works, because I personally have used silicone-based primers sometimes, and then I've gone on with a water-based foundation or the other way around, and it's actually worked well. But there are some that don't fit well together. So it really isn't just a case of, well, full stop, a silicone-based primer is not going to work with a water-based foundation. Put the two together, immediate separation of the foundation. That doesn't mean that's what's going to happen, but it is likely that that will happen. It's really a case of like testing the waters, which isn't, and I fully know this, isn't your job, because you guys are watching this video. You're not necessarily, you may not be a makeup artist, that may not be part of your job. With me, however, I get to test so many different formulas out together. Sometimes I come across formulas which are silicone based that work really well with certain water-based foundations, and that's great, but I can't rely on the fact that everyone can do that, you know? So I understand that you just want to go out and get the product you need and get the product that's going to work. You don't want to be testing things out. So that's why I'm here, to help you with that. I don't want you to think that they will never go hand in hand. And sometimes you might see me using a silicone-based primer with a water-based foundation, and you'll be like, yeah, but she said they don't go together. This is why. I just really want to detail, like break that down for you so that you understand. There are certain products that may be the opposite, but they do sit well on skin, and it could be down to the fact that the skin is fine for it. It could be a number of different factors. Generally, what I'm saying is the separation of your foundation could be down to one of the things that I'm speaking about currently. And one of them could be those two formulas are not compatible. Now, the other reason is you generally have dry patches and texture on your skin, which is really common as we get into our 40s because your skin becomes a lot more dehydrated, a lot drier. You're lacking more moisture, you're lacking the elasticity. Things just generally do get a little bit more dry, unfortunately. And that shows through, especially when you apply something like a foundation on top of your skin. It kind of just really, it's almost like, it's really bizarre because you don't see it when you may not see it initially on your skin, but the minute you put a veil of something over it, it's like it just shows all the flaws, you know? So that's what I'm talking about. It can end up being the fact that your skin is just generally quite patchy with the dryness and, you know, maybe more dry in certain areas. The last thing that I think it could be is that you are rushing through your skin prep and your routine in general. Now, you may have heard me say many times before that when you apply your skincare, each step needs to you need to give each step a little bit of time to settle down into the skin before you move on to the next step. There is a reason for that. And I know it's very easy to think it's nothing, rubbish, whatever, I'm still putting it on, it's just quicker. What difference is it going to make? It makes the world of difference. And that may be the reason why your foundation is looking patchy. So I'm going to break everything down for you today and show you exactly the correct way you should be applying everything, starting right from the skincare. If you feel like this is already answering a lot of questions for you that you've had about patchy foundation, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button and the bell button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Those three little things don't cost you a thing, but they actually mean the world to me, and they really do help my channel out and help this channel to grow. So please and thank you. So let's get into what your skin needs before foundation, because this is honestly so crucial. Now, first off is cleanser. I have just washed my face with my cleanser. The cleanser I used this morning was my Kiehl's Blue Herbal face wash, as always. You want to use a gentle face wash. Now, mine has salicylic acid in there, but that's because I need it currently with my skin routine. I'm not saying to you need to go out and use something like the Kiehl's Blue Herbal. I'm saying use the cleanser that is like suits your skin, okay? So if you feel like your skin is dry and patchy, then please do go out and get a hydrating like cleanser. That's something that's going to work well for you. You don't want a cleanser which is going to strip your skin of moisture. My one may be a little bit too harsh for you. It may actually strip your skin, but for me it works really well and I don't get that patchy finish to my foundation. But for you, I would say that's probably a little bit too much. If you are dealing with a lot of patchiness in your foundation, go for something which is hydrating, which is really feeding your skin. Next, you want to use a hydrating toner. Now, the toner that I'm currently using is my Royal Fern Phytoactive Skin Perfecting Essence, and I just basically get a bit of this on a cotton pad, and I do this every morning. Again, I would suggest going for something which is hydrating for you guys if you are dealing with dehydration or patchy skin. So now that I've gone over, I let that settle down. The last thing you want to do is go straight into your treatment serum or moisturizer, whatever your next step is. You want to let this settle down, let this dry down. Look, I know people want things done quick these days, and I get it, I do get it, but you can't solve a problem unless you correct the technique. And if the problem requires you to slow things down a bit, that's the only way you're going to solve it. So it is what it is, and there's no other way around it. So if you want patchy skin, speed things up. If you want smooth, flawless foundation application, something that looks really flawless all day, then slow it down a bit. You're just gonna have to get up a little bit earlier. Now, next is your treatment or serum, whatever you are using. Now, in the mornings, I don't use a treatment or serum. I actually go straight in with my SPF. Now, I know there's a lot of kind of, how can I put this? debate over where your SPF should go. My dermatologist has told me to apply it before my moisturizer, and that's just because I'm using tretinoin at the moment, so it's really kind of protecting my skin. You can apply it after your moisturizer too, so there is no kind of like right or wrong in that sense. You can apply it before moisturizer or after your moisturizer. But right now is when I would recommend you go in with your serum or treatment if you use a serum or treatment. So I've allowed this to settle down. It's dried down. My skin is no longer tacky or kind of like wet. It's dried down. So I'm going to go straight in with my SPF. My SPF is the Dalba UV Essence Waterfall SPF. I always say this wrong. So I love this SPF. It's just really good because it isn't greasy, and I just smooth that over. Now I want to let this dry down. I really need to let this settle down. I'm going to keep talking through as we're letting it settle down so that you guys know how long I generally leave it. So I will know from the feel of it, and I can feel on my skin like it's still quite kind of freshly applied. So I will know how, like when this is right, when it's settled down for me to be able to move forward to the next step. Usually I would say that's probably around 30 seconds to a minute. But again, that really depends on your skin type as well. It really depends on like, is your skin the type that really soaks up the products quite quickly, or is your skin the type that kind of sits on there for a little while and it takes a little bit extra? So it isn't the same for everyone. It will take a little bit longer for some people, but again, if you want to solve the issue, then that's what you're going to have to do. What else can I talk about while we're waiting for this to settle down? The formulas I want to talk about a little bit after, because I really want you guys to like understand each step as we go along. But just going back to like the products that you're using, I'm mentioning where you should input like put your serum and treatment in, but hopefully you understand that I don't necessarily have the same kind of skincare, and everyone has a different routine that they use and different products that they use. So you've really got to make sure that your skincare routine that you're doing before your foundation is what is best for your skin, but it's just a case of leaving that gap in between and making sure that you're allowing each step to really settle down and sink into your skin. I feel like this is kind of like settled down now, so I think we can move in straight with the eye cream. This is what I usually do. I usually apply my eye cream next, because then it just gives this whole base area the chance to settle down a little bit more, because obviously my eye cream is going on the eye area, and then I've given it, I know for a fact I've given it enough time for this to kind of settle down before we go in with the moisturizer. So there you go. We're just going to apply this around the eyes and just let that kind of sink in. And there are several different SPFs, by the way, I would recommend. Like, you've got like primer SPFs as well, by the way. Like, for example, the Charlotte Tilbury UV Flawless Poreless Primer, whatever it's called. So you could use that as well. So anyway, because that's a primer basic, so you could use that on top. So we're going to go in with my P-Calm Keto Cream. I've given my SPF enough time to settle down. Now this, I am going to just, there you go, like that. So we're going to let that settle down now, and then we're going to move on to the next. We're more or less waiting the same amount of time before we go into the next step, because again, you want this to settle down into the skin. If you start packing on all of the products so close together, what happens is everything's mixing in together and it's all just this thick balm on your skin, and nothing's really doing its job. There was no point in applying a lot of the products that you applied, because everything's just meshing together and just becoming one big mess on your skin. So while we're waiting before I apply my primer, everything is listed in my description below, so that you can just head on over and go straight to the product. Honestly, I can't begin to tell you, like, if you apply your skincare in the correct way and you allow each product to settle down, you allow each product to have its time to settle down into the skin, half the battle is won when it comes to like the patchy foundation issue. It's such a big thing to let everything settle down and do your skin prep correctly. Now I feel like my skin has settled down from the moisturizer because it's not wet anymore. I'm going to use my primer, and my primer is my Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Blurring Primer, and I want something that's going to give me a really nice smooth finish. So I just kind of like smooth this over like this. Can you see how like I'm not rubbing it in? I'm just kind of like going along like the T-zone and places like that, like anywhere I feel like is the larger surface area of my face, and smoothing a very thin layer on and just letting that settle now. Now, when it comes to your foundation, you want to use a foundation which isn't obviously going to cling to anything dry. Like I said, we've won half the battle with the skincare prep and how we've allowed space between each layer, but you also want to win the rest of it by using the right type of product. It's not just about doing one or the other, it is about doing both. It's about doing everything right. So what I want to use is a foundation which is going to hydrate my skin, is infused with skincare, has products in there which is going to look after my skin through the day as well as give me a flawless finish. So I don't want anything which is overly matte on my skin. I don't want anything which is going to self-set so quickly. So nothing that's too thick and drying and tightening on the skin. I want something that's going to stay kind of slightly luminous through the day, and I don't mean greasy, I mean that's going to keep feeding my skin that hydration. So the foundation that I would personally recommend, and I'll give a shout out to a few others that I recommend as well, but the one that I'm going to use is the MAC Studio Radiance foundation. I feel like this is an amazing foundation. It's a serum infused stroke powered foundation, so it does have a lot of skincare in here, and I really do feel that it's not drying on the skin. I've used this on myself and on several clients, and it really does give your skin that drink of water that it needs without leaving your skin looking greasy. So this foundation I'm going to apply all over. I'm going to add this to the back of my hand. Now, as I'm doing this, a couple of other foundations that I would recommend is the NARS Light Reflecting Foundation, because I feel like that's a really good one that doesn't cling to dry patches. Another one that I really do like, and it may not be an actual foundation, but it is an absolutely amazing base, is the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer Natural Dewy, because that is obviously packed with hydration as well. So you're really getting that extra boost of hydration along with a little bit of coverage there too. That's a really good one. If you don't like it to be so dewy, they do offer a blurred matte version as well, which is like a soft matte. It isn't even like overly kind of matte either. The other one that I would recommend, trying to take a look at my foundations over here, is I would say the Patrick Tar Major Skin Hydrolux Luminous Skin Perfecting Foundation. That is a really good one too. I don't feel like that clings to any dry patches. So those are a few that I would recommend. I want to show you a few tips as we go along. So I have this foundation at the back of my hand. If you feel that, okay, I've got my primer on, but I still feel like my skin feels a little bit dry, what you can do is get a nice hydrating face mist. So let's pick one out here that I've got. We're going to use this one. This is the Kosas Cloud Set. So we're just putting a little bit of this on, and this is going to give us that hydration. And then we're going to go in with this brush, my BK Beauty 106 brush. Don't forget, I have a discount code Nina10. Grab this brush. It's the best foundation brush you're ever going to use. So we're really buffing the foundation into the brush, and then we're going to start pressing on, and we're going to get a really nice finish, and you're going to see how everything just looks flawless and it doesn't cling on to anything. I just feel like you get this really nice kind of healthy looking, plump, juicy skin with this foundation and this whole prep that we've done. Can you see how I'm like pressing it in like this? You know, I'm never dragging. Don't ever drag, because what you're doing when you drag is basically just kind of moving around everything underneath. And obviously by leaving the time in between each step, you're allowing everything to settle down, but you still don't want to drag. You do want to really press. Pressing, buffing, dabbing is going to get you the best result. And honestly, if you feel that it takes you too long, it really shouldn't. It should take the same amount of time as if you were to drag. So it's just a case of you practicing. There you go. Can you see how we've got this really nice luminous finish all over? And we've got that really nice layer of foundation, which isn't overly heavy. And it also doesn't feel heavy on the skin. It doesn't look heavy. And everywhere I look, in every angle, it looks even, in the sense that areas don't look patchy. Now, don't get me wrong, it isn't just here that you would see that. So for example, when some people see that patchiness once they've set the foundation, then they're like, oh, but now it looks patchy. It looked great before I applied my powder, but now it looks patchy. So I'm going to talk you through that step by step. We're going to get to that. If you're loving this type of beauty education, then head on over to my beauty community called the Beauty Breakfast Club, which is an online magazine, and you're going to love it because there's articles on literally everything to do with beauty, like common mistakes, quick fixes, top products, everything you can think of. It's free to subscribe, but you can opt for the paid version, which basically means that you get access to the entire site, and you will have so much catching up to do, guys, because there's so much on there to learn. It's like literally like a whole beauty course on there. And you get to join the group chat, which is really fun. And that's where we have our community where we actually help each other out. Everyone's like helping each other with common makeup mistakes and products, and I'm on there too, and it's really nice to connect with you guys. And that only costs you the equivalent of getting yourself a coffee a month. So head on over and let's get back to this. Okay, so we want to lift some features now, and we want to do this with concealer. So we don't need to add more foundation. We've got a thin layer of foundation on. I'm going to go in with my Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer in 3WO. I am going to add just a small amount. I'm going to give a little bit of a lift. There you go, that's all I want. I would not go in with concealer on other areas of your face unless you really need it, and even then I'd go in with the smallest amount. So where I've applied it, I actually feel like is the areas that I would need it, and that's it. So we're just gonna buff this in, again pressing. This is my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood complexion brush, and I'm also gonna do that here. Now I want to get my sponge, and it's damp, but I do want to make it a little bit more wet. So I'm going to just spray my Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Spray on there. And we are going to go in for the under eye circles. Now again, I don't need to apply this on the larger surface areas of my face because I already have foundation there. And don't worry about the eyelids, we're going to go over that in a sec. There you go. See how we've covered that up and we haven't needed to go anywhere else on the face. Now whatever's left on this sponge, we're going to take over to the eyelids. Now, before I go over with my powder and set this, I do want to add a few other bits. So I'm going to go in with a cream blush. I'm going to use my Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Blush Stick in Dusty Rose. And I've got my Hourglass 15 brush. I'm just going to go into this like this because I don't want to actually draw it over my cheeks. There you go. Let's add a little bit of contour. So I've got my Dior Forever Skin Contour. Just gonna add a little bit here. Okay, so I just want a soft sculpt. Nothing crazy, but I do always get really kind of paranoid about putting contour on top of foundation because I do like doing it underneath, but I'm going to show you what you do just to kind of make sure everything's diffused. Now take your sponge, there's nothing else on here, there's whatever's left on it from earlier, and just go over, because that way you're buffing it in, you're melting that contour into your skin and it doesn't look so obvious. There you go. Okay, so let's set the eyelids first. I want to get rid of these creases. Let's get the powder puff, go into our Huda Beauty Easy Bake and then just dust it off. Okay, now we want to get rid of any creasing on the skin, but there's something else we want to do too. We want to get our setting spray. So we've got the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. Spray that all over. Let it sit for a bit, let it calm down and settle down. This is going to give you that extra hydration. It's really going to help to stop everything looking patchy. We are just going to let that dry down a bit. Okay, I think we can go in with powder now. Again, just make sure there's no creasing. Go in with your powder puff. We're going to set everything as normal. I would say if there are any areas that you tend to really blatantly always go patchy no matter what, don't press the powder on with a puff. Leave those areas out. So let's just say these areas go patchy for me. I'm going to leave that out. I'm not going to press the powder in with that. Then what I'm going to do is dust off the powder from the under eyes, because this area I would always recommend doing it with the powder puff just to ensure that it stays all day. And then you're dusting the powder off everywhere else you applied it. Now, we've still got those areas here, right? So let's just say those are your patchy areas. You're going to get a big brush, you're going to dip into the powder, not a lot, and you're just going to press on top so that you're not really putting a whole load of powder. And that's it, right? Then what we're going to do is we're going to get our setting spray again. We're going to let that settle down. In the meantime, I'm going to just prep my brows. This is my Anastasia Beverly Hills brow pen in medium brown. I'm just literally doing little hair strokes. Can we see how the skin is not looking dry at all? It's still looking hydrated. And don't be afraid to go over with another spritz of spray if you feel that you need to. So now that we've done that, we can just kind of warm up the face with a little bit of bronzer if we want. You can add kind of your eye makeup. You can add some extra kind of blush if you want. I'm just adding a little bit of my Dior Lip Maximizer. So this is where you would basically finish off the face. This is where you would add extra bits that you need to. But I just want to really focus on showing you the base so that you understand how it doesn't have to look patchy. And as you saw, I relied on a cream blush on a cream contour so that I'm not adding extra powder afterwards, and that will ensure that your skin doesn't look as patchy. But equally, it doesn't mean just doing that, because if your skin isn't prepped underneath in the correct way, then even cream and liquid products can still end up looking patchy on your skin. It isn't just about powder. It is about making sure that every step of the way you are correcting everything and applying things in a very strategic way. So you should have got from this the correct skin prep that we did, where we applied certain things in a specific order, such as when we sprayed the sponge, when we sprayed our skin, before we actually applied like certain products, and even afterwards, how we've done it to ensure that everything looks smooth and not patchy. I feel like there are a few things that you need to also just like key points to remember from this. One is spraying your sponge with a hydrating spray, something like the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. Like spraying your sponge, did I say brush? I meant sponge. Spraying your sponge with that really can help, and also using that as a additional primer, if you see what I mean. So it helps to really lock in that hydration and give your skin the hydration between the layers. Two is don't rely on your foundation to cover everything. Use your concealer for the lifting and the concealing part, but don't forget that your foundation should be a thin layer. I'm not saying that there should be a thick layer of concealer, but there should not be an overuse of foundation and concealer. If you're oily and you deal with patchiness, then I would suggest carrying either blotting papers. Personally, I think just tissues are fine, and also the Charlotte Tilbury Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Finish powder. I always forget the name of it. That's a good one to also help with kind of like keeping things matte through the day. And also, if you feel like you deal with excessive dryness or patchiness on the skin, maybe consider mixing your foundation with a serum, with a hyaluronic acid serum, because then it's really like with something which is really hydrating for your skin, then you're adding that extra moisture in and you've just got that extra layer. So just to wrap it up, Patchy foundation isn't just about getting the right foundation product. It is about your skin prep, understanding your skin better, your texture, layering in the correct way, and just adjusting your technique accordingly. Let me know in the comments what foundation issues you struggle with. I read everything, so please do let me know in the comments. That would really help. Don't forget to hit the like button and also hit that bell button so that you don't miss any of my future videos. If you want to know which viral blush is better, then stay tuned for Thursday's video. See you then.